On that climb, what are some of like the biggest takeaways, the biggest, or just you could just pick one. Like, what's one huge lesson that you've learned like over and over again?
Oh, I mean, I think that the real importance of hiring and like finding the right people, I think that there's a couple big lessons there. One is like we've always striven to make sure that we hire people who are passionate and who also have a certain amount of humility with the work. And I find that just from like personal experience that you know there's this thing called the actually there's a well-known effect called the Dunning-Kruger effect that I kind of didn't mention before, but I will bring up now. The Dunning-Kruger effect is that when you're confronted with a new problem, your first response is usually to say, "Oh, this is totally easy. I know exactly how to solve this," right? And you are invariably 100% wrong. Like you invariably, so if you look at your level of confidence as a function of time, you're immediately very confident, and then you discover how quickly that you're incorrect, and you end up plummeting into this chasm of despair. Is usually is what's called in the graph. So there's like the peak is called Mount Stupid, and then after the chasm of despair, and then you spend the rest of your career climbing back up, and you never achieved the level of confidence you had in that first like few minutes of like, oh, this is totally easy, because you kind of, the more you know, the more you know, and the more you know your own gaps. And so I find that that kind of, one way to short circuit that is, if you've been through that experience enough, you realize that most things are not actually easy, and that incurs a certain amount of like global humility in your approach of like, this will be hard, but I will deal with it, as the upfront thing. And so I find that is definitely an important characteristic to be able to kind of suss out for early on. I also think it's a function a little bit of stage of the company is important, right? Like having a bunch of very determined hotshot people is extremely valuable at the startup stage of the company, and it can be very, very difficult at a larger stage company where everyone has much more specific roles, right? If I've got a 10-person engineering team, everyone has to know what they're doing and has to be self-driven, and there's no way possible for me to like, they will work it out. When you get up to 100 people, you have to have a lot more structure in place, just because you don't want people stepping on each other's toes, and you need to make sure that there is clear coordination and clear communication, as opposed to, oh, I don't have to worry about it because I know, she's working on it over there. I might not even know who she is. Like there's an entire team that's in charge of something that might be out of my control. So that's been a big one. And I think that the other part of that is really when it comes to mentoring and making sure that people are able to progress in their careers, you know, it's it's much more worth everyone's time if you're working to improve the people who you have that are already really good, as opposed to trying to um, you know salvage a situation that went wrong because you hired incorrectly or because there wasn't a fit up front.